From the arena to the front office, this is Scoreboard. I'm Chris Titley, and each episode brings you stories from the game of sport, where mindset, money, and meaning shape what comes next. Athletes, coaches, owners, and business leaders unpack the moments that matter, because the Scoreboard isn't just about winning, it's about life beyond the game. Now let's get to this week's episode. Hi, it's Chris Titley, and on today's episode of Scoreboard, the podcast, I'm joined by Maddy Hendrie. Maddy, thank you so much for being part of the series.
Thank you for having me.
Maddy, you are committed to this podcast. You have just come off training, pre-season training, and you're in the you're in a little room in Carlton. Is that right?
Yeah. We have many rooms. Most of us girls multitask, and boys, they really promote doing things outside of footy. So they have these little study rooms where we can do that. And
Maddy, we're here on the Thursday, the 8th of May. How's your Thursday been?
It's been great. Thursdays are dedicated to trainings. So yeah, no better way to spend the day than out in this Melbourne weather. It's been unreal these past couple of months. So this morning just went for a walk, called my mum. I'm from Sydney, so just FaceTime. And then got a coffee, headed to training, and then training for hours, and then here we are. How's your day?
Yeah, my day's been good. I did a podcast this morning and then caught up with a colleague for lunch. And again, a beautiful Brisbane day here. It's just starting to get a little bit chilly this afternoon. How's the transition from Sydney to Melbourne?
It's good. I have it better than most interstate girls. All of my cousins are down here. Yes, my parents grew up in Sydney, but we made the move over before I was born. But I'm really lucky. I have all my cousins here, and it's pretty unreal being a part of like the winter hype around footy. I haven't really grown up with that being in Sydney. And it's ideal with such a long off season. I'm able to go home for the summer. So Sydney summer, Melbourne winter, can't complain with that.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you about the positives and negatives, Sydney versus Melbourne.
The positives of Sydney would definitely be the beaches and the weather. I suppose I've grown up in a really fortunate area near the beach, so that's just something I'm used to having down my road and going for a swim most days. And then a negative about Sydney could be what Melbourne possesses, which is, that hype around footy and that general conversations just in every workplace. You can always count on bonding whether you disagree or agree. It's a great starting line. Who do you go for? Things like that. That's definitely something that I've experienced making the move over, which I love.
And Maddy, your journey into footy is not as traditional as some other people, as you mentioned, probably not living and breathing it, born in Sydney, although some people do that, live and breathe it, born from Sydney now, but not back in the decades ago. But do you want to give the listeners a bit of an understanding about your journey to where you are now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So obviously being from Sydney, there is that difference between it's more rugby dominated. And then also being a girl I don't have that traditional Oz kick upbringing. You're seeing, the girls getting drafted, they've got that and you can tell in their skills, but most of us girls that have already been drafted or the girls that, were there from day one, usually are cross-code athletes like myself. So grew up playing netball. A lot of netball was probably my main sport, and then athletics I was into a fair bit. So
what did you enjoy the most?
I loved high jump. I really enjoyed the slow build up and the mental side of it, looking around, seeing how tall everyone is, watching their different styles, if they're on the left or on the right, if they, more do the scissor kick up or the flop. That was just really interesting to me. And I also really enjoyed 400 and 200. 400 was always the most painful, but I just suppose maybe with my athletic attributes, the 400 and 200 lengths were more to my style. I felt I didn't really get the speed quick enough in a 100-meter effort.
And did you start off with as a young girl doing the old scissors in the high jump?
Yeah. So my brother and my younger twin brothers and I, we all did high jump training, and my mum, she grew up doing high jump. Yeah, so I guess it was kind of a family tradition in that regard.
Yeah, and then the 400, did you start to get that sort of what they call the lactic acid that lasts a little bit and a few vomits every now and then?
Yeah, I think I remember I would place whatever I would place, say first, second, third, whatever, and then I would my mum would have to get my trophy or my ribbon because I'd be vomiting. I remember that happened a few times. We'd plan that situation. But and I'm still kind of a vomiter to this day. I'm not sure if it's a personal thing or if that's just how hard you go. But in the 2K time trial or a 6 minute time trial, I'm often one to vomit.
And then the interest in AFL, when did that come about?
Probably just from watching my younger brothers play. My older brother, he was more into rugby, and my parents both grew up in Melbourne, so we barracked and watched games naturally. So my mum barracked for Collingwood, dad Essendon, so it was very big rivalry and a lot of footy always on, but there just wasn't that pathway that I saw, and I probably missed out on a bit of an opportunity growing up. I definitely could have played with the boys, but I just didn't probably know that was possible. So a lot of girls had grown up playing with the boys, and then at a certain age, they stopped and waited until the girls program started. So I didn't do that, but my dad and one of my school friends' dad, who used to play for Swans, Jason Ball, he was the ruckman, I think, in their premiership. They created a team down at our local club when I was, I think, 16 or so.
Yeah, right. And then when you first played the game at that age, you thought, oh, this isn't too bad.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was a great combination of a whole lot of sports I grew up playing. I just think it encompasses so much athleticism, and there's a spot for everyone, all heights, all strengths, weaknesses. I don't really see a ceiling in terms of how far you can develop yourself. I felt maybe just because I had been grown up in other sports, I felt that that was the level of progression I could go. Whereas you can always, it's not foreign to change positions on a footy field, which is just, I think, amazing. And yeah, it's a great combination of tackling, running, jumping, kicking. I think you can do it all in footy. I'm obviously very biased, but that was the huge appeal.
And Maddy, growing up, you talked about your athletics and talked about the running and the high jumping, etc. They're individual events, but you've come to footy and it's a team event. How did you go with the team game, not just you?
Yeah, definitely. I think I thrive in a team environment. I've grown up with netball, but that's obviously a smaller team. So I'm very much a more the merrier type of person, and that's what I love about footy and how close you get. The more professional and the higher you get up in terms of academies and things like that, the closer you all become. So that's what I've loved coming to Carlton, being such an professional environment and having no shortage of friends and people to lean on and inspiration. Yeah.
And then in regards to your position in AFL, you're still quite versatile. When did you sort of work out that you were quite good at one position but also loved others?
A lot of girls growing up, if you're maybe a considered good player, you play in the rover. So I grew up playing rover, even though I'm taller than maybe average rover. So yeah, I grew up in and amongst in the midfield. So I'd play centre for netball. So I was really, I think, lucky, and that's what's made me quite versatile nowadays, is growing up in those centre positions. But due to my height, I grew quite late. So I got drafted as a ruck, but haven't played ruck yet. That might be a future consideration for Carlton, but as of now, I'm kind of honing in on being a lockdown defender. But yeah, it's pretty unfortunate that I can play either tall or small, so whatever needs to be done can be done. So yeah, currently it's nailing that defensive position.
Yeah, and then you talked about that draft. It was a supplementary draft. It's a little bit different to the normal draft. Do you want to talk about that process? And I suppose when you got selected, the emotions and how that all happened.
Yeah, it was unreal. I think I really saw the importance of being in Victoria, especially for AFLW. That year, I made the move to play VFLW. So I moved down in February, joined the Bulldogs for their preseason because my manager and I I think, saw their opportunity in the AFLW side for a key defender as such. So joined their preseason, played a practice match or two, but by the time that rolled around, that was in February, and supplementary draft was in April. So it all happened really, really quickly. And then, yeah, it was amazing. Such a surreal experience getting, walking through all the clubs, getting all the tours. That was pretty cool. And then once I knew, I mean, you're never guaranteed anything, but once I knew I would have a chance, the clubs were fortunate enough to let me go home and enjoy that experience with my family. So I watched the supplementary draft surrounded by my family and friends back in Sydney, which was, yeah, unreal. Yeah, I just rewatch that video all the time.
Yeah, awesome. But the prize of being a professional athlete is the highs and lows of selection and so on. The selection of a draft and then the selection of actually playing a game, two different things. And then obviously a third thing on top, playing a game and actually playing well and holding your spot. Going from the draft to putting that jersey on, you want to talk about that experience?
Yeah, my first season, that's what I struggled most with. Yeah, I had to build up a lot of resilience being in and out of the side, that complexity of wanting a team to do well, but if they do well, do they keep the same side? Yeah, there's, a million questions going through your head, whether you're playing or not. You're always, thinking. But I was drafted as a ruck, and I knew we had unreal rucks. I think Brianne Moody just came off the back of her All-Australian year, or maybe that was a few years prior, and Jess Good was developed ruck unreal. So I was kind of not led to believe, but not expecting. I mean, you're never expecting, but I didn't think I'd be playing round one, especially not ruck. But I think during the preseason, they kind of saw more opportunity as a defender. So I really embraced that challenge and, worked hard in the preseason, had unreal people to lean on. And yeah, playing round one of my first year was amazing. Yeah, that's up there with one of the best days of my life.
Yeah, and then being out there and having the TV's cameras on you, and also the social media and all that stuff that comes with it. How did you embrace that, and how did you feel as maybe dream come true, but also like, were you taking it in, or were you a bit nervous?
I was definitely extremely nervous. I don't know if I had too much time to take it in, to be honest. But I think the team grounded me really well. The siblings ground me constantly, so they don't make a big deal of it. I won't make a big deal out of it. It's any other game, regardless of the level you're playing at. Give you 110%, and nothing should change then, whether you're playing Div 5 or AFLW. So kind of went at that approach, and yeah, was surrounded by an unreal team. There was a fair few debutantes that game, so all in the same boat and got the win, which was unreal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm curious to know about your relationship with winning. Obviously, as an athlete growing up, you wanted to win, but sometimes things didn't go your way and you didn't get the W. How do you go about trying your best but coming up short?
Yeah, that's always a hard pill to swallow, but it's definitely a harder pill to swallow losing and knowing you didn't try your best. So I think that's just how I've approached losses and how to move forward from them. I think it's a much tougher review when you see footage of you slacking off or being lazy, not doing the selfless runs, and the team losing. So, as deflating as a loss is, it's much easier to bounce back when you know you've given it your all. So, I think just having that mentality and that approach, if you're the underdogs, regardless of what it is, just not letting that waver your performance or your intent to perform, I suppose. But yeah, the past couple of years, we have had a fair few losses. So that kind of rating, it's tricky, whether you ride the wave of the wins and loss or you try and stay constant regardless if you win and lose is probably a balance, and it's individual. Everyone really rides the waves and others stay pretty consistent throughout the whole season. There's no right way to do it. It's individual. So I'm still working on like what's best for me. How do I bounce back best? Do I ride the wins and the lows, or do I stay pretty mellow regardless of a win and a loss? Yeah, I'm still deciding that and working with that.
Yeah, no, you're early on in your career, and obviously, there's both sides of the ledger. Do you look back at games? Do you watch your own games?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I definitely watch my own games, whether that be the day after or if I can't sleep, perhaps even the night of. it's really dependent, how early on I see it, but I definitely see it before it's time to have the review with the head coach, line coach, assistant coach, development coach, whoever it may be. And that's really great because sometimes I come to the meetings knowing what I need to work on. Like we do a team review, and sometimes all I see is myself, which is just something I gotta learn to get better at and take advice from the general theme of a play instead of looking at myself individually. Did I get it right? Because it doesn't matter if there was cracks in the system. It's a team effort naturally. So that's really refreshing. I find it good going through the game myself, coming with things that I want to talk about in a review and having a discussion instead of just kind of taking things as gospel. I quite like to challenge people and challenge positioning on the field and things like that. So I like to watch my games to come prepared for reviews.
How do you take criticism / feedback, or is it the same thing?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing as most often you're getting criticism or feedback from people who genuinely care and want to bring the best out of you. So it's coming from that place. I don't think it's criticism. I think it's feedback, and as long as it's constructive, and which it most often is. So yeah, I love taking feedback. The more feedback, the better. I don't think I can ever be bombarded with feedback or things to work on.
Yeah, I was on a podcast yesterday with Christine Finnegan, the CEO of the Jack Jumpers NBL team, and she said feedback is a gift. It's an interesting. I haven't heard that before.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at feedback because, I mean, if someone's a lost cause, you might not give them feedback. If someone doesn't care about you, you might not give them feedback. So it genuinely is coming from a good place and coming from, more often than not, the fact that they know you can do and they can implement what they're saying. Nothing they're giving you feedback on is something that they don't believe you can do. So it's, yeah, I do agree. Yeah, it is a gift. That's a great way to look at it, feedback.
Yeah, and Maddy, were you when you were growing up? Did you always want to play professional sport? Was it something at the top of the list, or was there other things as well?
Probably not, to be honest. I just loved sport, but I loved so many. You're always, when you're growing up, trying to play every sport you can. So I don't think I really excelled high enough, perhaps in one that I saw that to be my future. It was just any sport play. So I more so grew up wanting to do, which I'm fortunate enough that I am doing now, working in a bank, doing something with commerce or economics, the market. That really interests me as well. So I'm fortunate enough with AFLW being part-time that I can develop that side of myself.
Yeah, and so just on that, the life after footy or career choice as well, because no matter who you are, athletes are maybe LeBron James at 40, but certainly careers don't last as long as that. What's the thinking outside of that? Obviously, you want to spend most of your time developing and playing as many AFLW games as possible and being the best AFLW player. But outside of life, what interests you? You said property, economics, the markets.
Yeah, exactly. So sport has a time limit on it. A lot of other careers don't. So right now, sport is a priority, but we are fortunate with the connections we have with sport, whether that be AFL sponsorships or club-specific sponsorships, that we have connections to great Unreal supporters who are always willing to catch up for coffee or talk about their lives, their career journeys, which is things I'm really interested in. So I studied at University of New South Wales. Being from Sydney, I continue my studies there, studying in commerce, majoring in economics. And then last year, I've created this cadetship called Beyond the Field program. And so it was for 5 AFLW athletes in Victoria to join a 12-month cadetship in their personal bank sector. So I was fortunate enough to be a part of that program, and off the back of it, got a permanent role at the start in February, so I'm currently, an analyst at NAB, which is great fun. And that's where I see myself post-footy.
Awesome. And what sector are you an analyst in?
A strategy team. Yeah, so I've done a full 360. The strategy team kind of created my program. They take NAB strategy and action it how they will. However broad or specific NAB strategy will be, what they do is put that into practice, and a way that they interpreted the strategy, the previous strategy, was creating my cadetship. So I'm fortunate enough to be now a part of things and projects like that.
Oh, that's awesome. And then it comes to asset classes. What interests you the most? Is it cryptocurrency, property, or the share market?
I'd probably say property and the share market. I'm studying economics. I'm really interested in the market, but I studied first year in psychology, so I am kind of interested in the combination of behavioral economics, human biases and how that does affect the market and trends. You know, all of that. The human component to finance. I'm interested in that kind of meat point.
Yeah, no, certainly. As a person that's been involved for 20 odd years, I suppose in financial markets, it's fascinating the psychology of what's hot and what's not, and then
Mm,
all of a sudden you're thinking things are going okay, and then you get a new president tweeting about tariffs, and things go a little bit roller coastery. So yeah, it's still fascinating. It's movement, which I loved about it, right?
mm.
And I suppose from a point of view, the program that you're involved in, have you got some feedback from your other AFLW player colleagues about the cadetship?
Yeah, they're like the current players who weren't a part of it. Do you mean?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they all were so intrigued by the cadetship, and I was really fortunate that it lined up with the career path that I want to take. And a lot of girls do things outside of footy, whether that be study, because that is probably the most flexible thing to do alongside footy. A lot of girls study, whether that be online or in person, or through Carlton College, which a few of the girls do here. So yeah, I really wanted to separate that. As interested as I am in sport, I didn't really want to study sport. I kind of wanted to develop myself outside of sport. Didn't want to integrate the careers. So as much as I'm interested in, say, maybe coaching or personal development and things like that, I think I wanted to develop in multiple ways. And so the girls were really supportive and
Mm.
interested in doing that in a business setting. Perhaps I was relatively new in this space. A lot of the girls study sports, and they're so passionate about sports, which is unreal, and it's really admiring. So yeah, they're interested in my career choice as well.
Yeah, and Maddie, obviously, footy takes up a portion of your life right now, and it's footy, and your strategy and your preseason or your pre-preseason, etc. Do you switch off from footy at all? I mean, obviously, you're working in that field, and you might switch off, but is there a flick you go, no, I just want to not watch, talk. I want to talk to my mates about something
Mm.
else.
Yeah, yeah. Which I'm fortunate is my Sydney friends are very much like that. So I um, obviously didn't grow up in around footy, so a lot of my school friends and uni friends are disconnected from footy. So I get that relief in that regard. But yeah, there are times, after a game, after training, I just cool down and I'm just like not footy and anything but footy. Whether it's a good game or a bad game, sometimes yeah, it does get a lot and intensive footy. But I think I find that outlet at work. Um, one day I'm in a blazer and a suit, and the next I'm running around in shorts and a jersey, which is pretty surreal. And that definitely is what keeps me sane.
Yeah, no, it almost from chatting to you, it almost feels like Melbourne footy, Sydney not footy, sort of to a degree.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, double lives.
Almost double lives. But your is it the goal as an AFLW player? Have you got a big, hairy, audacious goal? Or you're taking it week by week.
Yeah, definitely. I have, personal goals and then team goals. I certainly want to cement my spot in the team. Sorry, become that starting lockdown defender, take on those key forwards. I just love that challenge, and that was my goal last year. Unfortunately, broke my foot mid-season, so was ruled out for half the season. So continuing that goal, maybe tweak it and say play every game I'm available, so that be open-minded that an injury is possible. Um, and yeah, so that's pretty year by year. And then once I get that down packed, it'll probably be more centered around others and constant development and where to go from there. But on a team perspective, just being more competitive in the competition. Probably, I think we've dipped a fair bit recently, so that is definitely a goal of the team. And constant development. Yeah, there's no shortage of growth. So that's just something I always
Mm.
strive to do is personal and career development.
And I just had Liam Wright on the podcast, and Liam was as captain of the Wallabies for one game and captain of the Queensland Reds rugby union team, and has played 80 odd games. But he's going through quite a severe shoulder injury at the moment, and he was quite real about it. And he said, like, it's almost like the price of entry, and the
Mm,
best thing that he could do is to get back on the park. When you had that broken foot, what were the
mm.
emotions that went through you?
Yeah, I was obviously very devastated. I felt I'd cemented my spot in the team was being able to get that tagging role done on those key forwards, and that's something I really love doing. Researching who I'm on, having that matchup. I love that, and so I felt as though I was in a great spot in terms of confidence and performance and the combination of the team. So that was very devastating, and we just come off the back of a fair few losses. So I felt that I copped the brunt of it, and then injured when the team's gone well, which is a hard pill to swallow. But I think being involved and changing your goals, making them maybe more people focused, less personal, off field focused, you can still develop as a player, but maybe in an off field way. So whenever you get injured, you immediately see the sports side just for a one off session, and then it's up to you whether you want to continue that or not. But we do that here at the club. And so that was a really great opportunity for me to delve into that, make sure when I come back, I am more mature, have more of a maybe routine pre-game, just get all of those things that I don't delegate time to because I'm so focused on physical hands-on things on the field, but that's equally or more so important, all of that mental side of things. So I took that opportunity to delve into that, and then just tried to be a great teammate is what you kind of lean into, which is constant, but
Maddie,
yeah.
hmm. How do you talk about the mental side of things? How do you practice mental strength?
Yeah, I'm definitely new to that side of sport. I suppose being in such a professional setting, I felt like I had such a huge jump from maybe local university footy to a AFLW club. So that's certainly something that I am probably late to jump on board to, knowing the importance of mental strength, and that I think I've taken the opportunity to really hone in on my pre-game routine in the VFL competition. I've played a couple of VFL games in this preseason period, and that's when I really try and lock down that, because I'm afraid perhaps of trying something new when it is such a short AFLW season. Every game really does count. So I do get a bit anxious perhaps of trying something new. So I do do a lot of trial and error pre-training and pre VFL games so that I've got it down packed AFLW games. But yeah, it's definitely something that I need to work on. And I think goal setting, having intentions for training, intentions for game, and role clarity really does help me with my mental strength and mental stability when I'm out there.
Are you a visualizer?
Yeah, I am actually. So pre-game, I'll go onto the field and visualize things that'll happen. It's easy here at Icon because I train here. So, and I'm lucky that it's pretty much the home of AFLW. But when we go to like when we're an away team, I'll use my time to walk on the field, probably just like talk to myself, this is going to happen, but it's going to be okay because like this is your positioning, this is how it's going to be when you turn, someone's going to be an option. So yeah, I do walk through and think about what's going to happen where, how you're going to react. Visualization is a great tool that I use. It's interesting you say that.
You're talking about studying your players, and you get a lot of data, and you kind of go out there and you're like, oh, maybe this person's good on their left or right, etc. How often does that kind of play in? Is it pretty accurate, or does it come and the person then takes a really good mark on their right arm, and you're like, oh, I didn't study that.
Yeah. I definitely learned the hard way. I didn't know where to go about it. Do I psych myself out and read too far into it? And do I go in ignorance is bliss kind of mentality? But then I think that didn't work for me. I thought I probably going from such a jump in terms of the standards and who you're up against, I needed to really respect my opponent better. And so to do that, I like to delve into them. I don't really get psyched out from doing all of that. And, fair play to them. If they whip out something I've never seen before, then it's a shock to us both. And potentially unavoidable. But I like to be prepared and not surprised, and know who I'm up against, but back myself regardless.
Yeah, that sort of touches on confidence. You sound very confident when you're prepared, and a lot of people say they're confident when they're prepared, but when they're not really prepared, they're not really confident. Does that sort of sum yourself up?
Yeah, exactly. I think I've found, what's better? Is it to be over prepared, but then potentially you get riled up and um, stress about things, or to come unprepared and be open to mistakes and open to this that happening. Things not going to plan, which they never will. So it's definitely that balance that I'm trying to find. I'm fairly relaxed and laid back, so I didn't know if that was maybe the approach I should take to a game, or to bring it up a notch. On game day and things like that, what can I do differently? And I think that's just going to be a constant um, upskill that I'm going to have to,
Mm.
process, see what works for me, what does, what doesn't. That's constant learning that I'm, excited to keep exploring. Yeah, definitely. I was super excited to take responsibility on the matchup on Taylor Harris in the Brisbane game here at Icon, round 7, I'm pretty sure, in the 2024 season. Um, that was a great opportunity and a really great challenge, because I saw we were, similar height. We both pride ourselves on marking and our aerial ability to compete. And so that was just something really keen I was looking forward to do. But unfortunately, that was the game where I broke my foot. So I think, that was short lived. I think halftime or three-quarter time, I was pulled off. So I would definitely love to relive that opportunity.
And Maddie, we're living in a bit of a social media age with players and with leagues, and the content style is getting more prevalent than ever. And there's stories every now and then, and there's short snippets. How have you gone in all of that? And also being a player yourself, when you go for a coffee or you go for a drink or something, and you think, oh, there'll be someone taking a snap somewhere.
Yeah. I'm not too aware of it, probably for the better. I think it's a privilege to perhaps be getting taken a photo of, or being asked for this, asked for that, being watched. I'm at the stage where it's not overwhelming that I consider it a privilege. I'm sure if it does get out of hand, that perspective might change. But I think in terms of, being out in the media, it's similar to perhaps, giving feedback. It's a gift. You're a role model. That's a gift. You're in the eyes of people for a reason. So I think you have to embrace that side of things.
And Maddie, if we have this conversation in 5 years' time, where would you love to see women's sport? Where would you love to see the AFLW in regards to the growth and the trajectory of sport and the AFLW?
I would love to play every team at least once. I think that'll be really good fun for the growth of the game, for the evenness, arguably, of what fixture you get out. It is heavily dependent on who you're versing. Um, and traveling to every state, getting that opportunity, I think, just playing everyone once would be unreal. At least once. That's probably where I see the game and where I hope it goes, and also just aligning with that VFLW season. That makes it easier in experience for a lot of girls that aren't getting selected. It's a bit tricky to then perhaps earn your spot in a scrimmage where it's fairly chaotic, and there's 2-3 girls from every team who isn't getting selected playing on a weekend. And some teams mainly pass their own players. You help each other out. It's just tricky to bond and play the team style or your club's system with a bunch of different people. So I think having that alignment between the AFLW and the VFLW season will be really crucial for the development of the girls that potentially aren't getting selected.
Yeah, and Maddie, some advice for someone that is probably 15 or 14 playing footy or playing soccer or whatever it might be, young girls playing sport. What's some advice that you can give them in regards to potentially, extracting their ability to potentially become a high performance professional athlete?
Yeah, definitely. I remember I was challenged at that age, being a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a big pond. And that really led me to seek out and try out for the Swans Academy. I think if that hadn't been said to me, I would have been happy perhaps, playing my first or two seasons at local level. So I think really constantly challenge yourself. And whether that be each training session running with someone faster than you, or defending someone taller than you or more agile than you, I think you can always challenge yourself, whether that be on a daily scale or, you build up to a challenge. I think that's really important. And the fact that if you don't get drafted your first couple of years, like myself, it is obviously personal, but don't get too deflated by it. You have to really build up that resilience, and there's so many pathways to get into the system.
Keep going, but keep persisting if you're having fun. Maddy, I'm curious to know what your scoreboard moment is. This is like a sliding doors moment in your life where there was something that's pretty vivid in your brain where you're like, actually, this moment has sort of defined and changed the trajectory of who I am.
Yeah, definitely. I think the moment my brother, he really showed me how to be a small fish in a big pond. He had the great opportunity to play American football in Hawaii, and he at 18, 19 took that on board, moved countries to be, I'm not sure what the positions are. There's so many positions in American football, but I think it's like I think it's defensive.
There's one called I remember there's one called nose guard. I was like, that's pretty cool.
A lot of people assume it's a punter, but it's not, because there's a fair few Australian punters, and as proud of him as I am, I don't know what position he played. But I know it was a wing, defensive, maybe tight end. I don't know if I just made that up, but that really inspired me. Yeah, okay. That inspired me, that the sky's the limit in that regard. Countrywide, people grow up playing American football, and just through his sheer will, determination, curiosity of another sport, another country, he got to live that experience for 5 or so years. So I think that was really a moment where I thought that the sky is the limit, and that really pushed me to demand more, challenge myself, ask more of others and of myself each day. So yeah, that's definitely my sliding doors moment. Seeing him live that life dream eventuated to my life dream.
That's awesome. That's brilliant. One final question, Maddy. I asked this to a few people around their all-time favourite sporting moment.
Mine would be, I'm fortunate, I've been surrounded and watched in person so many unreal sporting moments, and I think my most recent, which may be why it's so prominent, is the 2023 Collingwood-Brisbane Grand Final. I was lucky enough to be there, and I'm being a Collingwood supporter and growing up in a Collingwood family. That was just an unreal experience to see, probably from an intergenerational side of things, between the Moors. That was just a beautiful thing to witness and be a part of, and likewise missing out on potentially that insane rivalry and sheer passion for a sport. It just wasn't more evident than that day. That was an unreal experience.
Yes, and I was there too, on the other side of the ledger with my 10-year-old son, as a staunch Brisbane Lions fan. My 12-year-old or 11-year-old son, my 12-year-old son is now a silver member of the Lions. He's been a member for 5 years now and been to the Gabba for 5 years. And needless to say, that was not my scoreboard moment, but the game itself was unbelievable. He still mentions to me now around the raw that Nick Dacos goal about 2 minutes in.
Insane. And the Collingwood chant is infectious. Well, for a Collingwood supporter, the Collingwood chant is infectious. But I'm sure you got your win just the following year. So
we did. We got a little bit of resilience there from the Brisbane Lions, a little bit of learning and mental toughness got them over the line in 2024. And you'll yet to see what happens in this season. It's wide open still. I wish Collingwood all the best somewhat in the season ahead. But I do wish Carlton all the best in the AFLW.
Yeah, that's
Maddy, thank you so much for being on for Scoreboard and telling your life story and your from athletics to the supplementary draft to where you are now, the 2 seasons in the AFLW, and the injuries that you've had, but now you're back on the right track. I wish you all the best for the upcoming season and looking forward to following your progress.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Chris, for having me. I've really enjoyed this.